New York City never really slept. Even on the coldest mornings, the streets breathed, taxis honked, subway grates hissed with steam, and people moved fast, eyes forward, hearts guarded. In a city of millions, it was easy to disappear. Daniel Harris had disappeared years ago. He stood outside a small corner cafe on 7th Avenue, his hands buried deep in the pockets of a worn-out jacket. The wind cut through him like a blade. His beard was untrimmed, his shoes cracked at the soles, and his eyes carried the quiet exhaustion of someone who had stopped expecting kindness. Once, Daniel had a life. Once, he had an apartment in Brooklyn, a steady job in construction, and a laugh that came easily. But one accident at a worksite shattered his leg, and then his future. Medical bills piled up. The company replaced him. His savings vanished. His landlord lost patience. And just like that, New York swallowed him whole. That morning, Daniel checked his pocket again. $1. It was all he had left. He didn't want food. He didn't want charity. He just wanted something warm enough to make his fingers stop shaking. He pushed open the cafe door. Inside, the air smelled of fresh coffee and baked bread. The warmth wrapped around him, almost painfully. A few people glanced his way, then quickly looked back at their phones. Daniel kept his head down and walked to the counter. "One small coffee," he said quietly, placing the dollar bill on the counter. The cashier hesitated, then nodded. She had seen men like him before, men the city had forgotten. As she handed him the cup, another man stepped up beside Daniel. He looked completely out of place next to him. Tailored coat, polished shoes, a watch that probably cost more than Daniel had ever earned in a year. His hair was neatly styled, his posture calm and confident. Yet there was something different about him, no rush, no impatience. The man glanced at Daniel's hands, red from the cold. "Excuse me," he said to the cashier, his voice steady. "Add his coffee to my bill. And whatever else he wants." Daniel froze. He turned slowly, unsure if he had heard correctly. I'm fine," Daniel muttered, embarrassment creeping into his voice. "This is enough." The man smiled, not the kind of smile people use to show off, but one that felt real. "Let me do this," he said. No strings attached. The cashier waited. Daniel hesitated, then whispered, "Maybe, a sandwich." The man nodded. "Make it two. And add another coffee." When everything was ready, the man paid without looking at the total. He picked up his own cup, then paused. He looked directly at Daniel. "People walk past each other every day in this city," he said. "Most of the time, we don't really see anyone. Today, I saw you." Daniel's throat tightened. He tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. The man simply nodded, turned, and walked out the door, disappearing back into the rushing crowd of New York. Daniel stood there, holding the warm cup and the bag of food, his hands trembling, not from the cold, but from something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. He sat by the window and ate slowly, savoring every bite. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel invisible. That small act stayed with him. That night, instead of curling up under the bridge where he usually slept, Daniel went to a nearby shelter. The next day, he returned. Then the next. Within weeks, he met a volunteer who helped him replace his lost ID. Another helped him apply for temporary work. It wasn't easy. Some days were harder than others. But every time he felt like giving up, Daniel remembered that morning, the stranger, the coffee, the words, "Today, I saw you." Months passed. Daniel found part-time work cleaning offices at night. The pay wasn't much, but it was honest. He saved every dollar. Slowly, painfully, he rebuilt his life. One evening, nearly a year later, Daniel stood in front of a tall glass building in Manhattan. He wore clean clothes now. His beard was trimmed. His shoulders were straighter. Inside the lobby was a large digital screen. Harrison and Company Annual Leadership Summit. Daniel's heart skipped. The name hit him like lightning. Harrison. It couldn't be. But it was. On the screen appeared a familiar face, the same calm eyes, the same quiet smile. Michael Harrison, founder and CEO. Daniel's hands began to shake. The stranger from the cafe wasn't just a businessman. He was one of the most successful CEOs in the city. Daniel didn't know what came over him, but he walked inside. Security stopped him, but Daniel explained that he only wanted a moment, just one. Maybe it was luck, maybe it was fate, but minutes later, he was escorted into a quiet conference room. And there he was. Michael Harrison looked up, surprised. "Yes," he said. Daniel took a breath. "You probably don't remember me," Daniel said softly. "About a year ago. A small cafe. You bought me a coffee." Michael stared at him for a moment. Then his eyes widened. "I do remember," he said. "I was wondering what happened to you." Daniel's voice broke. "That coffee, it didn't just warm my hands. It saved my life." Silence filled the room. Michael stood up and extended his hand. "I didn't save you," he said. "You saved yourself. I just reminded you that you mattered." That day, Daniel walked out of the building with something more valuable than money. Dignity. Years later, Daniel would volunteer at that same shelter where he once slept. Sometimes, he would buy coffee for strangers standing in the cold. And every time he did, he repeated the same words. "Today, I see you." Because in a city that never sleeps, sometimes the smallest kindness is powerful enough to wake a soul.